Hello and welcome back to TwoSun Tuesday, and today we have a very big and bold and brash Jelly Jerry design. This, I do believe that the final name for the knife is the Sultan, but he also had the name the Drac kind of in mind, but that was already the name of a TwoSun knife, so went with the Sultan on that. And it really makes sense because this is a Scimitar AF knife. Woo! All sorts of a trailing point blade, crazy clip going on here with it. Just enormous, really puts a smile on your face. Maybe not the absolute most useful knife for some EDC tasks. It is, like I said, big and bold and brash and brazen. But there's a lot to like about this thing too. It does have their TwoSun pivot colors there. Some people recently have not super been enthused with those things. So I suppose I'll throw that out there. We do have these, I wouldn't really call it a fuller. I'm going to call it like channels or whatever cut on the blade. And that's super easy to be able to reverse flick or thumb roll the thing out. And of course it does have a flipper tab going out the back here. But not a whole bunch of it is going to stick out past other parts of the handle here. So nice and kind of tucked in there. Really appreciate that. Now, this one being a newer one, yep, D2 steel. And with it being super, super tall, this thing has comes down to quite a nice fine edge right there at the shoulders. Of course, I've pulled mine back just a little bit to 17 degrees. I think this was pretty much right at 19 or 20 before I started there. But yes, we have titanium, of course. It's titanium frame lock. The pocket clip is not attached to the micarta, so no problems there. It's nice and anchored in there. A whole bunch of a nice ramp, as we can see. There we go. To get that into the pocket, and it does have a decent amount of flex to it. I always like, if they're going to put the lock bar relief on the outside, if they do something a little bit different like this, that always makes me a little bit happy here. And we of course have the red micarta inlays going on here. This is their newer canvas style micarta rather than the older burlap or micarta, as I've referred to it as. And the fit and finish between the titanium and the micarta here is pretty darn good. I can feel a difference if I'm dragging my fingernail across it, at least in some places. But for the most part, really, really nice fit and finish going on there. And they've kind of polished these ones up a little bit more than they have on some other ones. So it makes for a fairly striking look to it. Yeah, blade itself, stupid long. It's like 3.88 inches. And of course, with all that extra belly there, you probably have, closer to 4 inches or more of actual cutting length on the blade there. Whether you can, accurately use that or not, that's kind of up to you and how you end up using the knife. But let's see, it's 98.6 millimeters from basically here towards the tip there. Large crenellations. They're not super sharp, so they're not uncomfortable on you, but they are going to grip. Really get this knife to lock into your hand. Super, super nice. It's got kind of a beak at the end here, which, for me, that definitely helps, especially if you're putting a bit of pressure into that. It helps keep the knife locked in instead of possibly slipping forward. A little bit more like you would find on something like a hatchet handle or something like that. But it does help on these guys. And something that Cold Steel has certainly been known to do on quite a few of their folders. And yeah, a lot of this does remind me of just, some crazy Cold Steel kind of designs. I'm sure that they do have one called the Scimitar, but it's really weird. I think it uses some FRN handles. It has like this weird ball on the end for an impact thing. So not quite anywhere near this. It is a little bit more impractical than this guy is in particular. But overall, I really do like this design. You know, it's definitely not going to be one of those absolute EDC, like, oh, I got to have this every day sort of things. But when you pull this out of your pocket and start using it on whatever, you know, you have a smile on your face, or at least I do. I can't necessarily speak for y'all, but there we go. And nice sharpening choil on here. We got the plunge grind ends essentially right over here. So we have quite a bit before we actually get to the blade there. So super nice for being able to sharpen quite a bit out of that. And because this blade comes down to quite the thin edge there, you can sharpen this quite a few times before you really end up thickening up behind the edge much at all in any perceivable amount. So yeah, hooray, all sorts of fantastic stuff there. It's super nice and comfortable in a reverse grip as well. Might be a little bit weird, but trying to hook around or something like that. So, yeah, it's fairly versatile in a lot of that. Really comfortable in that Gorilla Hammer grip as well, in case you really want to muscle your way through something and you don't want to have a lot of reinforcement on the spine or something like that. If you're cutting something that would be in there, then yeah, get your thumb out the way. But still, I do like how it's decently thin going up here by the index finger. Really does make that comfortable and lock into the hand quite nice. See, we do have lock bar access here, and of course, it's also deeply channeled on both sides there, which also helps with a bit of that comfort with your index finger. I don't know, a lot of times if I'm doing some cutting or something like that, a lot of times I will open my hand up like this so I can still end up manipulating something with both hands before I get back to it. That makes it really, really nice and easy to be able to do that. So I do appreciate that little touch there. We have a lanyard hole. Yeah, it is just kind of punched right through there. But, yeah, it is what it is. And just due to that blade shape, they don't really have enough room on the backspacer. That's the word I'm looking for. And they didn't really have enough thickness in the backspacer to be able to really inset that so much. At least I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We can see pretty easily by this little notch here that we have the stop pin is mounted in the blade rather than being through the handle there. Adds just a little bit to you know, the side-to-side play or something like that. Really especially helpful if you're trying to wrench around some things or something like that. I wouldn't necessarily say that, you know, with how thin this thing is behind the edge that you really want to end up doing that. But, you know, if you were, then that would definitely help you out in those situations. All right. Well, there we go with that. Let's go for some other measurements here. We got 0.54 of an inch here. That's a little bit thicker than a Spyderco PM2. I'll do some size comparisons here in a moment. That's 13.7 millimeters here. And we do have some weight relieving going on the inside of these scales, or at least the show side here. The lock bar side, not so much, but of course we do have the inlays here. And because of that, this thing is actually a little bit lighter than you might be thinking. It's not light. I will. It's still 5.05 ounces or 143 grams. But when looking at this just by itself, I would assume it would be closer to 6 or something like that. But yeah, they did a pretty good job of doing some weight relieving, and especially those inlays help with that. 3.8 millimeter blade stock thickness on here, which is it's pretty much average for TwoSun. Which, you know, for the most part is a fairly aggressively thick blade stock thickness, but, you know, especially on their taller blades like this one here, they still come down to a fantastically thin behind the edge. So it really does a good job at slicing, but you might worry just a little tiny bit about being or getting the knife bound up if you're trying to cut through something tall, something like a, you know, a long, thick piece of cardboard or cardstock or something like that. And then a little bit more of that will be apparent here where we do have that flat. Whereas, you know, with the swedge clip here, that definitely helps relieve some of that going out towards the tip there. So, yeah, that looks like it's all the measurements that I wanted to cover. So, how about if we go ahead and do some blade size comparisons? There's the Paramilitary 2, which looks pretty darn small next to it. There's the Endura. That's the Endura 4. I don't know. It's pretty much the one that's been around since early to mid 2000s, early 2000s, yeah. But still, I mean, the Endura and Delica really haven't changed much. Even beyond there, they just had a different pattern. They had like a volcano texture on it rather than that bi-directional sort of thing going on there. But okay, there was some Spyderco. Here we go with the Brat number 1. And for Gits and Shiggles, how about if we pull out that K-Bar Dozier? Yeah, much, much smaller. And let's see. Sure, why not? I'll also pull out that Mannix 2XL, which seems to match it as far as, you know, actual blade hitting back to the handle there. This one has a lot more cutting edge on it, but still, you have to be a little bit more skillful and tactful in how you end up using that. And the handle's just a little bit more, but still has, you know, that kind of beak on the end there, which really does help with some cuts to keep that locked in your hand. And how about some Benchmains? Like I said, unfortunately, I don't have some super large Benchmains at the moment. It is kind of sad. Most of the new Benchmades that they're coming out with are really not interesting to me whatsoever. You know, like I said in the last video, I'm thinking about getting a Griptalion, but not quite sure if I'm going to pull the trigger on that. But, I mean, most of the other new ones, not super interesting to me. Like the Bailout or the Tagged Out or any of that, not really super interesting. The Crooked River seems super cool, but it's also really expensive. So I think I'll probably pass on that. Let's see. A negative I can definitely say about this thing. The detent on this thing is crazy late, unfortunately. So you can see basically when I unlock that, here's where the ramp starts, which isn't bad. But yeah, it takes until here for the detent to finally get completely over that ramp. And as you can see, you don't have enough room for your thumb to be in that location. So, a lot of times, you really have to get your thumb out of the way if you want to fully get over that detent ramp to drop it. Otherwise, yeah, just break it a little bit and give it a bit more force down and you'll do that. But if you're used to, you know, being able to get over a detent by the time something actually touches your thumb, this one ain't going to do it for you. So, you know, keep that in mind, I suppose. It's something that, you know, if you end up carrying this more and more often, it's something you end up getting used to. It's like quirks in different laptops or things like that, where a keyboard might be just a little bit weird, but you get used to it after a while. So, all right, that is basically everything that I wanted to cover here with it. It's a pretty cool knife. I do wish that the detent, or at least the detent ramp, terminated quite a bit quicker than it does on this particular guy. But otherwise, it's a nice knife. So that's going to be the standard review. So if that's what you stopped by for, appreciate it. For the rest of us, though, we're going to go a little bit deeper and take a look inside this thing here. Pocket clip mounted from the inside with a screw there, so nice. I don't need to take that off. As always, T8 hardware. And I do believe that both of these Chicago screws are matching. Nope, I'm lying. One of them is a little bit longer there. So. All right. Super easy to take this thing apart. Like I said earlier, no weight relieving going on the inside. On the lock bar side, but we do, of course, have a decent amount taken out from there. But we can see that we do have a decent amount of weight relieving as full holes cut in the show side there. And that does help, and it doesn't really feel lopsided or anything like that. It just ends up working out quite nice. And we'll see that the Micarta is mounted with 2 screws on each side. They're not glued in case anyone's curious on that or wants to remove it to replace it with something else. Just kind of works. Let's see, and this one has, yeah, it's a newer construction. So that D-shaped pivot, hooray, is on the show side, which means by the time you actually shove that in there for putting it all back together, this is already nice and secure in there, so you don't have to worry about trying to line that up on the lock bar side when you're putting it all back together. So all sorts of good stuff going on there. There's that lock bar in there. Pop this guy in there. Yeah, I already got some lubricant going on it. I don't particularly feel the need to end up replacing any of that. I probably should have put those Chicago screws back in there, but you know what? YOLO. We're just going to throw this thing together and hopefully I can shove it through afterwards. So put that pivot in there. Alrighty, and I think the shorter one went up this side. Maybe not. I don't know, we'll find out once I shove this one in. It looks like it's thicker over there. Yeah, it is. Okay. So I got that backwards. It's alright, at least it's not hurting anything. Second guessed myself for a second there. I should have just shoved it in. Well, we did. Usually I would close the blade up, but too late. I'm at least going to just screw these in a little bit here. Maybe not the safest way for it, but yeah. We are in the den of a self-proclaimed professional. Okay, pivot is definitely not tight enough on there. It is now, though. Yeah. Nice. All right, we are all back. So this is the TS209 Sultan. It's a fairly new design. I still think that there's probably quite a few of them available, or they will be a little bit more in just a little bit. So if you are interested, you know, go ahead and try and pick one up. But as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo.